Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today we're continuing the 7th Annual Demmy Awards, going over every 2019 film that I saw. Anyways, in the first video we looked at the best films of 2019 in each genre, but in this video we're doing the opposite. That's right, the worst films of the year found in each genre. To give you a quick recap on how the winner, or loser in this case, is determined, it goes a little something like this. The most important number is the overall score, but when there is a tie, it goes to the entertainment score. Then it goes to the specialty score, the unbiased score, and the people score for each following tie. If the people score also ties, that's when we just give up and just give in to the tie. There may be some mitigating circumstances here and there though when needed, so without further ado, let's get cracking. We're starting off with the action genre, and the nominees are Cold Pursuit, Escape Plan, The Extractors, Hellboy, Kim Possible, and The Kitchen. And the winner, or I guess loser, of Worst Action Film of the Year goes to Escape Plan, The Extractors with an average score of 42%. This is the first Demmy for Escape Plan, The Extractors. So this is one of those mitigating circumstances that I mentioned earlier, right? Because The Kitchen has a lower score, so it would have naturally won, but The Kitchen is no action film. It's listed that way for some god-awful reason that I don't understand. Escape Plan 3, though, that's an action film, and it's a perfect example of when an action film goes bad because it's non-stop action. It really is. It's just the kind of non-stop action that has you checking your watch, waiting for death. So in this case, I'd say that this is a failure, and the runner-up would have been Liam Neeson's Cold Pursuit, which seems to be more of an advertising thing where it looked like Taken on ice, but really it was a lot less exciting than that. Next, we take a look at the genre of adventure, and the nominees are 6 Underground, 47 Meters Down, Dumbo, Hellboy, and Kim Possible. And the failure is Dumbo with an average score of 44%. This is the first Demmy for Dumbo. Yeah, out of all the live-action films, Dumbo was, well, dumb. I actually hated it so much that I didn't think a real review was worth doing. I think for Dumbo, I made a Twitter review where I collected a number of tweets. That's how much focus that I wanted to give it. Anyways, the runner-up for Worst Adventure Film was Kim Possible, which was also kind of a live-action thing, but that was mostly an underwhelming movie that probably just shouldn't have ever been made. Next up, what is the worst animated film of 2019? And the nominees are Abominable, Playmobil the Movie, Reign of the Supermen, Spies in Disguise, and Ugly Dolls. And the failure is Reign of the Supermen, with an overall score of 54%. This is the first Demmy for Reign of the Supermen. I think most people would have probably said Playmobil for the worst animated film of the year, but I've always hated this Death of Superman, Reign of the Superman franchise. It's no good, in my opinion. It's bland, it's boring, it's a bunch of whatever. I actually prefer the original cartoon covering the Death of Superman back in the day. That was much, much better. This, Playmobil wasn't great either, hence it being on the list of the nominees. But the runner-up was actually Abominable, which is the only other film on this list of nominees to have gotten an F score at 55%. Next, the worst biographical film of 2019, and the nominees are Breakthrough, Charlie Says, Fighting with My Family, and The Upside. And the failure is Fighting with My Family with an average score of 64%. This is the first Demmy for Fighting with My Family. I almost didn't include biopic in my worst films of 2019 because truthfully, none of the biopics are bad. I didn't score a single biopic an F score in 2019. In fact, between the last video and this one, I've listed off every biopic that I saw. Fighting with My Family is just the lowest scored film that I saw of the bunch, and it's still an okay film. The main thing that I had against it was a case of false advertising, basically saying in all the posters and the trailers and anything with marketing that The Rock would be in it. He's front and center in everything, but he's not actually really in the movie. Can you imagine a Jumanji movie, for example, having The Rock front and center of all the marketing, and then he shows up for like 2 seconds in the actual film? It's a marketing ploy to get more people to see it, which is never a good idea. The runner-up, by the way, was Breakthrough, which was a religious biographical film, which actually wasn't a terrible religious film, but even religious films that aren't terrible are still kind of bad. Next up, we're taking a look at Worst Comedy Film of 2019, and the nominees are Benchwarmers 2, Breaking Balls, The Hustle, Kim Possible, Making Babies, Playing with Fire, and Stockholm. And the failure is Making Babies with an average score of 35%. This is the first Demmy for Making Babies. Alright, so none of these movies are great, right? None of them are funny, some of them are kind of all over the place, but Making Babies was pretty much a travesty in my opinion, which is why I included it on this list. I don't have a review of it on my channel. Not everything that I saw in 2019 did I review here, but I did score it. It's just garbage. Even though I did like the two leads, I actually can't remember much about the plot. It left that much of a mark. The runner-up would have been The Hustle at 38%, and that's a comedy that didn't know what it wanted to be. Dumb or smart, it tried to be both, and it created a cocktail of something horrifying. The next genre we're taking a look at is Worst Crime Film, and the nominees are Cold Pursuit, The Kitchen, Killers Anonymous, Murder Mystery, and Stockholm. And the failure is The Kitchen at 36%. This is the first Demmy for The Kitchen. See, now where it didn't have action, it did have crime. It was all about crime. The movie itself just sucked, like I said. It wasn't engaging. The runner-up, by the way, was Stockholm, which was a film with a decent enough concept, which was to introduce the world to where the term Stockholm Syndrome came from. But the movie wanted to be a comedy or something, and I think for something like that, you needed to have a psychological thriller. I mean, come on. Next up, we're taking a look at Worst Drama of 2019. The nominees are Cold Pursuit, The Goldfinch, Greta, The Kitchen, and The Silence. And the failure is The Goldfinch with an average score of 49%. This is the first Demmy for The Goldfinch. This is another mitigating factor that I had to change things up with. The Kitchen would have won again because it has the lowest score. And I guess it's partially a drama, but dramas are just so specific to me. And out of the list, the one that stood out to me as not only a drama, but a drama I shake just thinking about rewatching was The Goldfinch. That's just a really long, slow, boring film that's also a disappointment because I expected so much more based on how long the book was on the top of the New York Times bestseller list. So when you compare that to The Kitchen, I had no expectations from The Kitchen. But The Goldfinch kind of let me down. Now for the worst dramedy film of 2019, those nominations are Fighting With My Family, Cats, Then Came You, and The Upside. And the failure is Cats, with an overall score of 39%. Jesus Christ, this movie. This is the first Demmy for Cats. You know, I just saw this movie right before I did the bottom films of each category. It just goes to show you how important it is to wait to see every movie that you want to see in a year. But yeah, this movie is hot, smelly garbage. I have nothing more to say about it. It's now time for the worst horror film of the year. The nominations are 47 Meters Down, Uncaged, Annabelle Comes Home, Hellboy, They're Inside, and The Silence. And the failure is The Silence with an average score of 36%. This is the first Demmy for The Silence. Yeah, okay, so this is just one giant waste of time. It's Netflix's response to A Quiet Place. It's basically the same story, but with PlayStation 1 graphics, bad/weird casting, terrible acting, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I would rather not talk about right now. Don't watch it. The runner-up for worst horror film of 2019, by the way, was a found footage called They're Inside with an average score of 37%. Just not worth it. And now for the worst mystery film of the year, and the nominees are Annabelle Comes Home, The Curse of La Llorona, Killers Anonymous, Murder Mystery, and Pet Sematary. And the failure is Murder Mystery with a score of 56%. This is the first Demmy for Murder Mystery. Okay, so this is a massive mitigating circumstance because there's actually 3 movies on this nomination list that scored lower than Murder Mystery, but I don't think they're actually mysteries. I don't know why movie websites list off horror films as mysteries because they're not mysteries, okay? Sometimes they can be, but Annabelle was going to originally win this category because it's the lowest scored. And that doesn't make any sense. Annabelle Comes Home isn't a mystery unless you're like, ooh, what's going to pop out at us next? That's not mystery, you numbskulls. Murder Mystery, however, is a mystery. It's in the title. It's not a very fascinating mystery, nor engaging, and structurally, it doesn't even know what it should be doing. Next up, what's the worst romance film of 2019? The nominees are Aladdin, 5 Feet Apart, Jexy, The Perfect Date, and What Men Want. The failure is What Men Want with an average score of 57%. This is the first Demmy for What Men Want. Alright, so I consider myself to be a fan of the Mel Gibson film What Women Want. It's hilarious, but maybe that's because I'm a guy. Watching this movie as a man, I'm like, that's not what men want or think or anything. They were almost trying to censor themselves, and it just wasn't funny. There was a lot of potential for the movie, but I don't know what they were doing. The runner-up, by the way, is the Netflix film The Perfect Date with an average score of 60%. Next up, what's the worst science fiction film of 2019? The nominees are Child's Play, I.O., Hellboy, Rim of the World, and Reign of the Supermen. And the failure is Hellboy with an average score of 49%. This is the first Demi for Hellboy. It's been in the running a few times as a nominee, but somehow skimmed by each time, but not here. Not here. Hellboy has finally met his maker as the worst sci-fi film of the year. It's just, as an overall idea, Hellboy kind of sucked as a movie. It was all over the place and it was hard to care about any of these characters. It was a far cry from what works so well with the original Hellboy films. The runner-up was Reign of the Supermen again. The final genre that we're taking a look at today is Worst Thriller of 2019. And the nominees are Six Underground, Annabelle Comes Home, Cold Pursuit, Escape Plan: The Extractors, and The Silence. And the failure is The Silence again with an overall score of 36%. This is the second Demi for The Silence. Yeah, so thrillers and horror films are often found in the same category, so it's not hard to see why this won for the worst thriller as well, but it does go without saying that it's not a thrilling film. The runner-up was Escape Plan 3, which also is one of the most unengaging films of the year. Those are the worst films of each genre, and by the way, if you're curious on the lowest average score for any genre, that would actually be horror at 62%, followed closely by comedy at 67%, which is actually really funny and really interesting because I love horror films and I love comedy films. There's just a lot of crappy films in those genres. And that's it, guys. I want to hear what your least favorite film of each genre is in the comments down below. Did my picks match up with yours, or was I way, way, way off? Let me know. The next Demi video will probably cover the best films in each rating category, so that's the best in the people, writing, behind the scenes, and stuff like that. As for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you like this video and would like to see some others like it. Hit the thumbs up button because that always helps on my channel. And don't forget about hitting that little bell because that'll help notify you when I come out with my next review or Demi Awards video. And until then, peace out!